This is the Imperium G2 with submasters. It comes with your main helm and 4 additional submasters. Each submaster is color coded with a go and stop and a joystick. Up here is the submaster view, which shows each of your 4 submasters across the screen, where you can hit load on each one of them, which brings up your temporary sub profile load window. From this window, you can choose an action to do to each one of the subs. So you could have a no change action, a load action, or unload the sub. Selecting load gives you the option to select which load type. Those could be an axis, a group, a queue, an XYZ master. You can set your sub as a grandmaster, or you could set it to jog whatever axis is loaded to that joystick. Selecting an axis, for example, will give you a list of all the axes in your show file. So selecting that, hitting OK, will load that axis to your submaster. Holding down the hold to run will enable your submasters with whatever one is loaded. Only sub 1 has something loaded. And you have software stop and go buttons. You have a feed rate slider. And you have a feed rate / jog mode selector. Feed rate, when it says feed rate, the joystick on the console will adjust the feed rate. And when it's set to jog, the joystick will jog the axes. Other features you can do is load an entire group. You could set it to run a queue. So this will bring up your queues that are in your show file. So if you select a queue, then it pulls up whichever scene that queue belongs to and whatever queue you have selected. So now that scene, that queue stack is loaded to the submaster, you could advance through your scene with the little buttons at the bottom. You can also have macros to advance and go previous queue on each of your subs. So that's what's shown down here. In addition, you can create preloaded subprofiles. Hitting one of these buttons brings up the temporary subprofile window, and you can have a macro that brings up the subprofile manager. So the subprofile manager lets you create predefined subprofiles with whatever is required. You could have an axis loaded to one, a queue, then an XYZ to another, and set them all up. Hit OK, close that window, save, and that now shows up in your subprofile window, and you could load that and it'll push all your changes to your subprofiles immediately. You could have that loaded to a macro. This macro will load a subprofile onto your submasters, and just like that, all your subprofiles are loaded. You could also have one of your submasters as your grandmaster. So this macro is set to change that and load that profile. So now our submaster 1 is our grandmaster, and hitting go on submaster 1 will act as a go on all other submasters, same with hitting stop. So running the queue stacks, we can run each individual one with 4 separate stops. And stop them individually as well. So I can stop that one, and also resume. Okay. And then when the queues are finished executing, you can advance to the next queue and hit go again. So you could use the buttons underneath each submaster or use the macro buttons to advance your queues, and then you start each individual queue independently. And you could adjust your feed rate and stop and go each individual queue stack independently.